Thanks again, everyone, for joining us for Pushing the Envelope. My name is Holly Conrad Smith. I am your customer success manager for Giraffe here in the US and Europe. And I'm very excited to introduce the team at Zonomics today. And they're going to teach us a little bit about zoning data, how they work to aggregate that data, and then also demonstrate a new app that they've developed for the Giraffe platform to leverage all of that great data aggregation that they do. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Asim, and he will give us a great presentation on how to use it. So thank you so much, and here we go.
Great. Thank you, Holly. Hi, everyone. So my name is Asim Mushtaq. I am the CTO at Zonomics. With me, Wayne, who's head of urban planning and everything related to that. And we have Saad here, who's head of our digital side of things. So with the introductions done, let's move on with the real show. So pushing the envelope, automated zoning constraints. We have developed an application which plugs into the Giraffe platform, and we'll be demonstrating that to you shortly. But before that, Wayne will take it from me and just give you a brief idea of what zoning is, why it's complicated, and how we use it.
Great. Yeah, thanks, Asim. So my name's Wayne. I know everyone joining here is coming from different backgrounds, different familiarity levels with zoning. So I just want to give sort of a brief overview of what zoning is for anyone who's joining who doesn't regularly work in this kind of space. So I'm an urban planner by background. I've worked for a number of large cities, and so zoning is my love language. I understand zoning, and I love talking to anybody about it who is willing to listen, which isn't everyone. The idea about zoning is a structure of rules and regulations that control how a city is organized and how it develops over time. And the city is generally broken up into several different zones. And in those zones, the city will control what types of uses are allowed to be there. For example, can you have residential here, or can you have a ammunition factory? Can you have a nuclear waste disposal? Can you have a daycare? These are all very different uses. And so the city is going to decide where those uses can be, so that we keep incompatible uses separate from each other. You don't want to have maybe the daycare next to the explosive factory. So in addition to the uses, a lot of what we'll be talking about today is more about the built environment, the form of the buildings, and the zoning code will control that as well. So it controls aspects such as how tall a building can be, setbacks, which is just a fancy word for your front yard or your rear yard. Density is a description of that's usually reserved for residential uses. It's a description of how many units can be put onto an area, as well. So other development standards you will encounter have to do with the percentage of landscaping that's required, the number of parking spaces that are required, and there's even things like controls for noise, odor, those types of things that are all contained usually in the zoning ordinance. Saad, if you could go to the next slide, please. Thank you. Zoning itself is very complicated, even for a single city, but it gets exponentially more complicated when you're looking at a country like the United States, where there's 40,000 different municipalities, and they all have their own zoning code, and there's no uniform way of laying out a zoning code, of naming zoning districts. A residential district might be called R1 in one city, and it might be called SFD2 in another. So one of the great things that Zonomics does is takes all these different sources of zoning data and unifies them and standardizes them so that you can go to a single platform and compare, locate the data that you need, but also the ability to compare in a standardized way one municipality against another, or to search an entire region sort of in a standardized way. Okay, show me all the areas where single family housing is allowed. That's something that you can do through Zonomics. So we compile all this data, we check it for accuracy, we fine-tune the context sometimes that is missing, and we present all this data in a nice, tidy package for you to use however you need. And I think Asim will take it from here.
Yeah, thank you, Wayne. Good job on that. Right, so I think Wayne has summarized this pretty well. The idea is that we are combining data from very, diverse and very dissimilar sources. We're collecting it from PDF documents, the maps. We're sometimes, digitizing maps from pictures taken from a certain wall of someone's home or something, or an office from a regular camera, so on and so forth. Then we're, the zoning code lies in various forms. It's in HTML format, it's in PDF. Sometimes we have to actually grab the handbook and digitize that, so on and so forth. So we combine all of that and try to standardize it, not just the permitted land use, but also the controls like setbacks, height standards, so on and so forth. And the way we go about it is we automate the whole process. We have developed tools and continue to develop and improve these tools that automate the process of map digitization. They automate the process of ingesting and extracting data, and then ingesting it, extracting, cleaning, and then ingesting it, and then standardizing it through the zone codes that we have, which can be a document of 400 to sometimes 2,000, 2,500 pages. So that's our process. That's how we have been collecting data, and now we are at a stage where we we're at a stage where we have well over 7,000 municipalities added to our database, and we are fast approaching 8,000 municipalities in our repository. Once we have this in our repository, we make it available on our through various means. One of them being our web platform. So you can log into our web platform and search for any particular locality or a particular address that you might be interested in. Get all the information we have related to zoning on that, which includes all the zoning attributes we have for it. This includes the zone code, zone name, zone type, zone subtype. We even give you a link to the actual zone code so that you can go in and verify all of the data on there. Then we have the permitted land uses. That is what you can and cannot build on a certain property or within a certain zone. We also have another data set we have is the controls, which is the most relevant one today, and we'll be talking about it shortly. We also have short-term rentals and parking data in certain municipalities, and that is going to be things that we'll be more coming days. So, but this is available through as a standalone thing as well. You can sign up and get access to the API. The credits you get on our API are also usable on Giraffe. So that's a big bonus on that. And now moving on to the real thing, Giraffe, which is why we're here. So I would like to mention that building on Giraffe was a real treat. The way they've kind of exposed the way being able to add attributes to the envelopes and exposing all of those through the API. It was very easy way of going about this, and very flexible. and very robust, I must say. The way it updates and goes like renders the whole thing, it's quite impressive compared to some other techniques that we've seen out there. So the idea here is that you search for a particular address on the platform. You identify the boundary for the the building or the area where you want to build. We provide you through our API the setbacks, all the constraints, which includes the setbacks, the height constraints, the full floor area ratio constraints, so on and so forth. And you'll be able to view all of those. Based on those, you can then build an envelope, which is kind of like a bounding box for, a bounding box of what you can build on that property. So, and this is a short example of that. This is an interface directly from the Giraffe app that I'll be showing you in a minute. This is how it looks like, and I'll move on to the actual demo now. So here we go. Right, so starting off, I don't know, this is coming in the way, so I'll just move it out. When you log in, this is the kind of interface that you will see. What you need to do to add the Zonomics app is to click on this add button. I've already obviously added this. This will, you can add this. I obviously have this added, but you can add this through through here or from the public apps. You can add this, or I obviously have this added, so I won't be able to add it again. But it's as simple as just clicking on that plus button and then adding the actual app. Once this is there, you click on it, and what you will see is a welcome screen of sorts. I'm obviously already signed in, but you'll get some general information about the free credits you get. So every time you anyone who signs up to the Zonomics app will get 50 free credits. 50 free credits means that you can search for or get the zoning details for 50 different properties. And it doesn't matter how many 3D models then you render on it, as long as it's the same property, that just counts for just one credit. So what you need to do is, like I have done here, so you need to search for a particular address. In this particular case, I'm doing 62 8th Street, New York. You just search for that. It shows up here. Once you click on it, it takes you to that particular location, as you can see here. Now I can see the parcel boundaries here. So what I'll do is I'll create a polygon here. And let me put it with this. A little bit further. Just to get it right.
If you hold down S on your keyboard, it should snap to those corners, as long as they.
Right.
Yeah.
So
it might be a raster data set, but.
Oh, right. Okay. I think this is a raster data set. I added a different one. Right. So what's happened here is, so as soon as I click the final, I completed the polygon. This what our app did is basically it took this location, found out basically called our API and got all the data for it. So what it's telling us is this is zone code C64 in New York. The zone name is general, central commercial, type is commercial, subtype is core commercial. You can also click on this open link button, which takes you to the actual zone code. I already have this loaded up. So this is the entire zoning code present for this municipality on our platform. So you can review it, and if you want to find out some more details on it, you can run through this whole thing and get those details. But more importantly, this is also giving you all the details of the constraints that are applicable to this particular parcel, because a certain zone, which is called C6, C6.4, is applicable to this particular thing. Now it says a max FAR is 10, minimum lot width is 18, so on and so forth. All the units, by the way, are mentioned here. So if it's in feet, it will just say here feet. If it's a square feet, it'll say square feet. If it's percentage, it'll say percentage. You will see some cases where it's NA, Now, this is not to say that we could not find it. NA means that this particular constraint is not applicable or is not applied by the municipality for this zone. Um, all the controls given here, we make sure that we look for them on the zone code platform, in the zoning code for the city, and make sure that if it's there, we find it and put it here. If you see an NA here, it just means that it's not been published by the municipality here. So what I'll do now is I'll just change the angle slightly. All you need to do is build or generate 3D model, and that kind of builds that out for you based on the controls that we just saw. So this is the front of the property with the setbacks going in, as you can see here clearly that there's a bit of a setback here. So once this is what you get by default, right? But you can, if you think you can get certain permits, and maybe Wayne can talk about that a bit more, you can change this around to, just to work out what it would look like if you went with a maximum height of 250, right? So that's the beauty of Giraffe. It just quickly updates the whole thing for you, and you can see the envelope has increased. Yeah, so that's that's how it would work. Again, another button here is for get full report. What this does is basically it allows you to order a full report for the same property through our platform. You can go in and order that report for yourself if that is something that you're interested in. That would be that, and then obviously I can share this with anyone that I want to work on further. For instance, to work on the
Yep, dot build.
is on the side of things. Yeah, dot build. Sorry.
No worries.
And edit. Holly, that's correct, right? Giraffe dot build, right? Yeah, and now Holly can kind of show you how you can use this envelope further to actually design a building or a building inside it. Holly, do you want to maybe take over from it?
Yeah. So I just got a link in my email that invited me to join that project, and I'm going to open up that project link. And I also want to note that I see a few questions in the Q&A. That is great. We will get to those questions in just a moment. Keep adding your questions and we'll answer everything at the Q&A portion. All right. So I've been shared this project, and my teammate probably let me know what they were looking at here. So they were looking around for different sites that might be a potential fit for the type of project we're trying to build, and they've sent me this one. So now, as the sort of feasibility person on this project, I'm going to come in and take a look at the data that's been generated for me in this in the Zonomics app, and it's going to tell me all of the things that we just went over: how tall I can build it, what land uses are allowed, and I can use that to sort of dictate what kind of drawings I want to do here. So the first thing I want to do actually is just kind of lock that envelope so I don't accidentally move it around or change it, because I know that it's been sent to me as this is the max allowable area. And then I'm just going to create a new drawing layer to draw my design on. And I know that this project is kind of a commercial zoning. So let's do some typical kind of commercial things here. I'm going to put some retail on the first floor. Kind of snap this here. And I also noticed that we had a max coverage here of 70%, so I'm going to be looking out for that as well as my max FAR. And then in Giraffe, it's going to tell me those things. So if I pop over to my urban tab, it's going to tell me what my percent coverage is, what my building height is, what my current FAR is. So I can keep tabs on if all of these things match up with what is allowable by this building envelope. So I've got this nice retail first floor. I'll add another level here. My internet will keep up with me. Maybe I'll just draw it manually. And then on top of that, I'm going to add some commercial. And maybe make this building a little bit of an interesting shape just for fun. Bring it up to as many levels until we see if it, approaches the max height of this envelope that's been provided. I can visually see here that it went beyond my maximum allowable height. So I'm just going to drop that down another level. And now I have sort of a readout on what is allowed here. So I think I just need to edit my project boundary here to be the site, and then all of my coverage will be good. Perfect. So now I'm seeing here that I have currently a FAR of 7.16. I have a building coverage of 61%, and my max height is below that maximum allowable height. Based on what the Zonomics API pulled through, it looks like I could actually make this building a little bit larger if I wanted to. Probably that's something that I would want to do. But I can use that as just my compare and contrast to what is allowed here in the building controls. So that's a really quick and dirty demonstration of, maybe your acquisitions team is looking at sites. They did the analysis with Zonomics and they said, hey, this one might make sense. And they sent it off to me as the feasibility person and said, hey, does this make sense to continue on as a project? So that sort of collaboration aspect works really well with this new Zonomics app. So that's what I wanted to show here. Of course, there is a lot more to Giraffe, and we have many other webinars that focus on that, but I want to give the Zonomics team the floor for the most part today, because we're very excited about this new integration. So with that, let's pass it back on over, and if we don't have anything else to add, maybe we can start doing some Q&A.
Yeah, just I think in terms of what else we'll be adding on this, I think in terms of controls, we will also be adding modulated setbacks that will be coming in shortly. Obviously, that would again help with understanding the exact boundaries or the envelope. And yeah, maybe Wayne, anything you would like to add on that?
No, I think you did a great job. Yeah, as you said, so in some cities the data is really straightforward, and it's and there's only one answer for everything, and so in those cities it is really easy to use. In other cities, there's complexity to the development controls. And so it'll say, well, if the conditions are this is your height. But if it's this other thing, this is your height. And so, we have the ability to provide both answers, or a lot of times it's like 15 answers of what all the different scenarios are, and that you're able to choose from them. And so right now we have that for most, the structure of that works really well for most attributes. But what Asim was mentioning is setbacks that only apply to upper floors or above a certain height limit. That is a feature that is pretty much ready to go, but hasn't been deployed yet. And so right now, if you have an upper level setback requirement, that information will come to you in the form of a message telling you, hey, there's more to this setback than we're telling you. You need to consult the code to get the full breadth of what this requirement is. And so there are attributes that will come through that are flagged as conditional. And so when you see that, that's telling you, okay, we've got you an answer, but there is a little bit more to it. And so you want to double check before you make any big decisions with this information.
And I should also mention that the conditions that Wayne just mentioned, you will have in about a few weeks' time. You will also have the option to build based or get the constraints data based on those options or those conditions. For instance, you may have one height limit for a corner lot and a different height limit for inner lots, right? Similarly, you can have a certain max coverage restriction for single family dwelling, but a different one for multi-family dwelling, right? So you will, in the near future, you will also have, and this is something, part of the roadmap, you will have a drop down that on top of the zoning data and building controls tabs that you're looking at. And based on, the selection that you make, the data underneath will change. So the controls will be based on your selection of, so if you're building for a corner lot, you can pick those controls. If you're building for an inner lot, you can change that. So that's another thing that will be coming up, in the next few weeks. Yeah, that's I think all we had, Wally. I guess we can move on to the questions now. I like the last one. I like the looks of the last one. I can take that one, but Wayne, I think I need your help on the rest of them. So I think the last one is how quickly we update the code. That comes up a lot, to be honest. And the answer is that it really depends on the city, how quickly and how often the zone code updates. So as a general rule of thumb, if it's a city over 500,000 in population, it's updated fairly regularly, even less than a month. We update quite regularly. If it's something between 100,000, 5,000, it'd probably be 2 to 3 months, and so on and so forth, going up to 6 months. If it's a very small municipality, we have everything coverage for just about everything. I think one thing I missed was the coverage we have. I did mention that we have close to 8,000 municipalities now, but in terms of population, we have everything over 50,000. Now we're trying to cover everything with a population, every municipality with a population of over 25,000. So yeah, something that we digitize for some, as a special request for a client, which has a population of under 25,000. It will probably get updated in 6 months to a year's time. I should also add that we are now rolling out a script that will automatically highlight for us when update goes through for any of the cities that we already have in our database. And based on that, we'll pick it up and queue it up for digitization and processing and for updates. Is there a follow-up question there? Do you have to keep the processing to the update? And will Zonomics create a flag or error message for specific building controls if the drafted building boil is part of? So I think, Holly, this is something that you've kind of demonstrated, right? Yeah. So I think it's visual at the moment, as I can, the best I can tell. Yeah. So yeah. Holly, maybe you can take this one.
Yeah. So for the most part, it is visual by default. However, you can create a custom sort of schema in your analytics calculations that will tell you if it's over or under the allowable amount. That would take a little bit of configuration. You would probably want to apply a land use usage to this box after the Zonomics app generates it. But then you can take the properties from this box into analytics and compare versus the building that you've drawn. So you'll see if it's over or under the allowable amount. Typically, though, it's just as easy to just monitor the values in your report to see if it's over or under. So that's the typical workflow. Perhaps one day.
I think there's another easy one that I can take. Is it available in Latin America? At the moment, we are in US and Canada. We also cover Australia through a partner platform, but we're currently not in Latin America as of now. But hopefully someday soon. No. Okay. Wayne, maybe you want to take does your API return maximum number of units at the moment?
Yeah,
Yep.
Benjamin, great question. So we have our data comes through in two buckets. One is our standardized attributes, and so these are the ones that are the same for every city. And then we also deliver what we call the local controls, which is the data as the city prepared it. And so one of our standardized attributes is dwelling units per acre, which would answer your residential density question. But not every city measures density that way or controls density at all. And so sometimes you'll have an answer there and you can use that answer and run with it. Other times, the way the city controls density might be, for example, if you have a zoning district called the triplex zoning district, and they allow single family, duplex, and triplex in there. But they may not ever actually say you're limited to 3 dwelling units per lot, or 15 dwelling units per acre, or whatever density is. They might just say, yeah, triplex is allowed. So it doesn't always get communicated in in that type of formula. Or there's also more and more of these cities doing form-based code, where they say, we're not going to tell you how many units you can have. What we're going to tell you is what they have to have. Those units have to have this much open space. They have to have this many windows. They have to, have this much parking. And if you can get all that stuff in there, then you can have as many units as you can fit into your building envelope. And so in that case, that's another situation where you're not going to have a concrete number to work with, because the city's decided that they're going to let other elements of the development constrain how many units you can have versus just specifying a number.
And I can take the second part of that question of alternatively, could we calculate it? And a really easy answer is if they are giving you dwelling units per acre allowed, you could easily calculate in Giraffe Analytics, take the acres, divide it by the dwelling units per acre allowed, and it would get you your number of allowable dwelling units. So if you're typically doing work in an area that gives you that kind of metric, you could set that up in your template, and then it would effectively give you that answer each time.
Awesome. Thanks, Holly.
Yep.
I think we have a couple of interesting ones. I want to start off with Noah's question. When I can answer it from a technical standpoint, like exactly what we give, but maybe you can give a more well-rounded answer on this. Noah's asked, how well does this work on parcels with multiple lots that have different zonings on each lot? So, Noah, there are two kinds of situations where you're building on multiple parcels with all those parcels having different zoning. And there are also cases where a single lot has multiple zones in there. At the moment, the way we do it is we pick one zone, and that is based on the centroid of the area of interest you build on top. So if you want to maybe play around with it, you can change the orientation or the shape of the parcel. But that's how we go with it at the moment. We take one of those zones because eventually only one set of restrictions can apply to a single building, right? That's the answer from, I won't say it's technical, but the way it's currently implemented, that's how it's implemented. But Wayne can maybe elaborate more on that as to, you know, how things are done in the real world.
Mhm. Yeah, so yes, this does happen, and unfortunately, there's not a universal way of approaching a development site that is has multiple zones across it. Each city is going to just to determine for themselves what the process is for determining what development controls apply. So I think one of the most common is, well, the map says this part of the lot is commercial and this part is residential, so you're gonna have to follow the rules, you know, one for one, where the map says those zones take place. But other cities will say, well, you know, maybe you can choose. You it's zone this and it's zone that, or maybe you have some flexibility in terms of where the stuff takes place. Okay, well, half your lot is commercial and half is residential, but can you do commercial on the ground floor? You know, half of your FAR is dedicated to commercial and half is to residential, but you're doing it vertically instead of split where the line is. So it's case by case how each city approaches it, and that is not something, that's not information that we collect currently. So if you have a development site that is spread out across multiple zoning districts, I would advise first to consult the zoning ordinance, find the section where they explain what to do in that scenario. It's probably in the ordinance, sometimes it's not, and it's in some type of supporting document they've created, you know, some zoning administrator rule or a you know, bulletin. And then once you know how they apply it, then you can use our data and the Giraffe platform to organize your model based on how you're going to develop this project, knowing what you now know about how the city is going to implement that split zoning.
Great. Awesome. I think Noah has another interesting question, but I'll just go to Jamie's question. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. The next one is, do you have an AI prompt, or will you have it in the future? Yes, we'll definitely have one in the future. We have been experimenting with one even now, recently in the last few months, but we want to, you know, release something that's not just the basic model, but a more interesting one. So yes, we will have something, an AI prompt in the near future, just as a short answer, maybe towards the end of this year or start of next. And then I think, Wayne, there's another one from Noah that probably, and this is about California specifically. So probably one for
Yeah,
you.
I
Does
take
economics
that.
have state programs?
Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Asim, but Noah, your question is, does Zonomics have state incentive program data that's not spelled out in the city zoning code? And first of all, I'm in California. Hello. Hello. California is well represented here today. So the answer is not at this time. We don't capture state level data, state level laws that override local laws. But you will see over time. So with California, we had SB 9, which, you know, essentially allows a single family lot to become up to 4 units, depending on how you do it. And so there's this state override, but the cities, as they are going through their zoning update processes, are complying with that law. And so you go to the city of South San Francisco, and you look at their zoning ordinance, and they now have processes and development controls spelled out specifically for those types of SB9 authorized developments that wasn't in their ordinance a few years ago, but it's there now. And so it does start to make its way into the local data, but as someone, if you're a developer or you're just in this industry, you do still probably need to keep a tab on what's going on at the state level. Ideally, land use decisions are not made at the state level. I think most cities will advocate for that. And so it's not a common thing for a state to override local control, but it does happen, and there are good reasons for it to happen. But when that happens, that is not generally going to be reflected in our data.
I think that's all the questions.
Yeah.
And I think we're right on time.
Yeah, perfect. Well, thanks so much, everyone, for joining us today. I hope that was enlightening for you. It was great for me. So be on the lookout for this recording. We'll upload it to our YouTube channel if you want to share it around with your colleagues. And as a last note, we've made the Zonomics trial public in your Giraffe account. So if you want to give it a shot, just log into your Giraffe account, add Zonomics to your next project, and give it a try. And we hope you love it as much as we do. So with that, thanks so much for joining us today, and I hope you all have a great afternoon.